Lieutenant Stephen Rogers, he's an advisor to the Donald Trump presidential campaign for 2020, and Cameron Vallipalli, chair of Democrats abroad in India. Good evening to both of you. Lieutenant Rogers, this is a war that has been going on for a while now. It has become more toxic, as we said. Donald Trump, the president of America, versus the media. Who is winning, according to you?
Jim Acosta not only angered the President of the United States, he angered Americans from coast to coast, from both political parties. First of all, he showed a complete lack of respect for the office of the presidency, but he went further. He got a little aggressive, too aggressive, with that young lady who was trying to get that microphone from him. Could you imagine if it was a Republican politician that did that? So at the end of the day, who's winning? Well, the people are winning. They're fed up with CNN. They're fed up with this continuous onslaught from Jim Acosta on the president. Jim Acosta wasn't there to ask questions. He was there to start trouble, and he got a lot of it.
When you say he did not show a lot of respect for the office of the presidency, I don't know how much of it was exhibited by the president himself, but I want to put this question to Cameron Vallipalli. Do you agree with what Lieutenant Rogers has just said?
With all due respect to Mr. Rogers and his experience with the Trump administration and campaign, obviously I don't agree. I think the American public saw that every day when we wake up, we wonder how much farther our president can sink, how much more he can damage our institutions of democracy. And we saw it again with this attack on the press. He has called them the enemy of the people time and time again. He has shown his disregard for the press, not just Mr. Acosta. And today, the president was clearly very agitated behind the podium for most of the press conference, and when he got a chance to lash out, he lashed out.
Lieutenant Rogers, this exchange, this outburst happened moments after Donald Trump promised to hate partisan politics. He takes on the media and he calls them what? Enemy of the people. Is that fair?
What he is saying is a lot of this is being taken out of context. What they're doing makes it the enemy of the people. I've seen myself reporters create their own narratives to attack this man. And as far as how the people feel about the president, well, the economy's strong, taxes are cut, he's had great accomplishments and every promise kept. So the people look at this as just another one of those things that are going on with regard to the press versus the president. But in particularly CNN has consistently attacked this president from the day he took office. And it's got to come to an end. Look, there's nothing wrong with asking questions. But I counted 3 or 4 times that the president said the word please to Jim Acosta. Jim didn't want to hear anything. He wanted to start trouble, and he got a heck of a lot of trouble.
Let me quote to you what President Obama said. And these are his words. I accept that people are going to call me awful things every day, and I will always defend their right to do so. Now let me quote to you what President Donald Trump has said. I do not know why Washington politicians do not change libel laws. What does it say about these two men? Do you think that he did a disservice to the office of the presidency by behaving the way he did? If Jim Acosta was crossing a line, should the president have played ball?
Look, the President of the United States is a businessman. We have a president in office who's not a politician. He is not politically correct. He doesn't care about, as the most of the people in this country don't care about every single word coming out of a politician's mouth as being polished so they could win votes. Says what he means what he says, and frankly, it's working. He's done a great job for this country, and the people appreciate that.
Cameron, I have to grudgingly agree with what Lieutenant Rogers has just said, that it may be working. Every time Donald Trump takes on the press, his supporters cheer him on and believe that he's taking on the liberal elite. And it is working, and to that extent, the press is playing into his hands.
Well, it's not working too well. They lost the House of Representatives yesterday. So clearly there are things that this president is doing that are not sitting well with the American people. And the American people sent a message yesterday saying we need some checks and balances. We can no longer have the government in the hands of one party that has been unwilling to call this president out on his numerous problems. Now we have a House of Representatives controlled by the Democratic Party. And now we're going to see what happens when this president is actually called out on his behavior and all the things that he's been doing. The American public has spoken. It's very clear what they want. They want checks and balances on this president.
Lieutenant Rogers.
The American people did speak. Barack Obama lost 63 seats. Bill Clinton, 40-something seats. President Trump won the United States Senate. President Trump won governorships across this country, including in battleground states like Florida, Ohio, and Iowa. So the president did pretty darn well with regard to the midterm elections, and he's going to do very well in 2020.
Cameron, how do you think this is going to end? Because clearly America is divided. The press blames the president for it. The president blames the press for it. Where is this going?
Well, I don't think America has ever been quite as divided as it has now. If you look at most of the election results, whether it was a Democratic win or a Republican win, they were actually extremely close elections in almost every place. So the country is clearly divided. And yet here we are talking about the behavior of the president when we have serious issues in America that we should be talking about. The number one issue for Americans, health care. How are they going to pay for health care for their family? We had yet another mass shooting in America today. Gun control is a big issue for Americans. And yet this president's behavior continues to have to be discussed by people around the world because he cannot see fit to behave in a presidential manner. And the other side likes to say, well, he's a businessman. He's not a politician. There is a decorum that is expected of a president of the United States, whether or not he's from a business background or not. And time again, this president has failed to live up to the decorum that the American people and frankly that citizens around the world expect from a president of the United States.
Lieutenant Roger, final comments.
The decorum has always been political. It's always been, let's say what we want to say in the back room and then lie to the public. This president tells it like it is. And it, as you said and as I said, it is paying off big dividends, not only for him, but for this country.
Cameron, do you believe that this president is going to course correct after what you call his defeat? He's, of course, lost the House of Representatives to the Democrats. Or do you see him coming out even more strongly?
I don't think he's going to course correct at all. I think the last 2 weeks have been a very good picture of what we can expect leading up to the next presidential election. I think he's going to dig in. I think he knows that his base responds to fear. His base responds to panic. His base responds to divisive politics. And he will simply dig in on those divisive politics and hope that it leads him to a victory in the next election.
I guess the American press will have to find a way to cover all of this without becoming a party to this conflict. Thanks very much to both of you, Lieutenant Stephen Rogers and Cameron Vallipalli, for joining us here on Gravitas.